Let's start with the prayers. Om Bhadram Karnebhi Shruniyama Devaha Bhadram Pashye Makshabhiryajatraha Stirairangaihi Stushtovagum Sastanobihi Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuho Swasti na Indro Vrittashavaha Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaha Swasti nastakshorarishthanemihi Swasti no Brihaspatir Dadato Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Mandukya Upanishad is the text for our study at the moment. We have finished 3 chapters. The Agama Prakaranam was the first chapter, which had 12 verses of the Upanishad. The first 7 verses talk about the highest reality, which is Turiyam. And the balance mantras, 5 mantras, they talk about upasana, meditation on Omkara, which benefits us to realize the truth. This Upanishad is a direct form of teaching. It tells us directly, with reference to our experiences in life, how to know the core of my personality. It talks about the waking state, which all of us experience, universally experience, the dream state, the sleep state, and what lies beyond these 3 states. It's a very unique Upanishad because we can all arrive at the core of our personality just by knowing this truth. Go beyond the waking, go beyond the dream, go beyond the sleep state. Even though these verses which describe our experiences in the 3 states, they look fairly simple, but when we try to understand the significance behind them, many of us are not able to go beyond a certain level of understanding. This is because of our ability to just remain focused only on the waking state. We take our waking state as the main state, and we are not able to come out of this state because our mind has never dwelled on this topic. So when the Guru teaches us this Upanishad, many of us are baffled because we are not able to understand Turiyam at all. And this Turiyam has got certain indicators which are said in the 7th mantra. The Upanishad knows very well that this is very difficult to fathom. Therefore, it itself prescribes a method to dilute our mind and then come to the truth. So that was the Omkara meditation, where we learned how to look at the entire waking state as the amatra, the letter A in Om. Then the dream state was compared to the U, the letter U, and the sleep state to the letter M. And whatever we hear by the word Om, the sound is nothing else but these three states, which are basically name and form. The silence which comes after the chanting of Om represents the truth. It's a very, very ingenious way to describe our nature, our true nature, the core of our personality. And once we are able to understand this truth, we can then comfortably accept the description of Turiyam. So Agama Prakaranam, the first chapter was devoted to the 12 mantras and commentary on them. The second chapter we have discussed is Prapancho Upashamam, one word which is used. We analyze that in very great depth. And this word itself means that the entire prapancha, the seen world, the experienced world, is nothing else but this Turiyam. And we must understand that this Turiyam resolves this entire universe. And because it resolves this entire universe into itself, it is called as Vaitatyam. That means the world is called as Vaitatyam, and unreal appearance. These are all different words which are used. Maya, Mula Vidya, all these are words, but all means the same thing. Vaitatyam means it is false. So the chapter is entitled Vaitatiya Prakaranam, which we have finished last week. This is a very important aspect of understanding the Mandukya Upanishad. There are a few things which you must know when you try to understand the Turiyam nature. The world will not stand opposite to you when you are trying to understand Turiyam. Very important point. We have all made mistakes in the past. To remain as Turiyam and try to imagine a world in our meditation in front of us. This is a basic error. Many of us, including me, I have committed this mistake when I try to understand the Mandukya Upanishad. When I close my eyes, yes, I can resolve the Omkara and the world into Turiyam. But then what happens is, I start looking around and say, where is the world? And when I don't find the world around me, I conclude that maybe I'm not realized. There is still a lot of steps more for realization. This is the mistake which we have to avoid. What the Upanishad tells us is prapancho upashamam, means that the entire waking, dream, sleep, all the three worlds, the phenomenal world, they are all absorbed in Turiyam. I'll give you a simple example. Maybe this will make it very clear. All of us are aware of our thoughts. During our day-to-day experiences, we become angry, we become sad, we become, so many emotions come. And especially in meditation, you will realize so many hundreds of thoughts are coming, and you get absorbed and you get carried away by the thoughts. And you will invariably realize at some time, you'll realize that some thoughts have disappeared and then another new thoughts have come. And then once you open your eyes, you will see the world of names and forms in front because of the sense organs. The question is, these thoughts which I saw in the meditation, where did it go? Where did it appear from? Where did it go? This is where the Guru comes and tells us the thoughts rose from you and then their thoughts resolved in you. That you is Turiyam. That is what is the revelation of this Upanishad. This is how we have to understand the nature of Turiyam. I alone am as Turiyam, that is my Swarupa. Swarupa means it is something which will never go away from me. That is the definition of Swarupa. What is coming and going, the changing experiences, they are not Swarupa. Swarupa means intrinsic nature. And what is coming and going is the three states. The waking comes, it goes away. Exactly like a thought. The thought came, it went away. The whole state of experiences of the waking, they come, they go away. Similarly, the dream comes, the dream goes away. The sleep state comes of ignorance, it goes away. And all this, they resolve in Turiyam, in the pure awareness. Turiyam is nothing else, but it's a name given for Chaitanyam or consciousness or awareness. So if this is understood, then Vaitatyam becomes very easy to understand. Vaitatyam means that the world of experiences, with reference to the Turiyam, the pure existence, the I, the real I, the world of experiences, which is a seen world, a phenomenal world, is Vaitatyam. It's false in nature. And whenever we say false, it's always with reference to awakened state. For example, the dream state is false only when you wake up to the waking state. So similarly, the waking state can be declared as false when you rise higher to the Turiyam state. From that state, we say this particular experience of the waking is a lower nature. It's a vyavaharika satyam, that is called as paramarthika satyam. Mandukya Upanishad is not difficult to understand. It is easy to understand, but you must go step by step. And you must realize that I am only negating all my experiences. And whatever is the balance, remainder, I accept it as my nature. So knowledge, Atma-jnanam, consists of removing the anatma only. That is the effort we put in. And whatever remains, that is what is called as Atma-jnana. Anatma elimination, the nivritti process, it ends in Atma-jnana. And that is revealed by the scriptures. So I have the wisdom of the scriptures in my intellect. With that wisdom, I can claim I am the pure Turiyam. It's only knowledge, but I have to deliberately claim it. Only when I deliberately claim it and say, Aham Brahma Asmi, Aham Turiyam Asmi. Only then we have this understanding of our real nature. So with this short introduction, I will go into the chapter called as Advaita Prakaranam. That is the topic, chapter number 3. That is our topic today. One last point before we start that chapter is we must remember Adhyasa is a fundamental reason for our experiences. Ignorance is the main cause. Ignorance of my real nature is the main cause, because of which the I thought comes into this body, and then it remains throughout the waking state. Again, in the sleep state, the I thought becomes dormant, and when that becomes dormant, I am able to realize my true nature. Even though in the waking state, I am still that same Turiyam, what happens is when the superimposition of the waker comes in, I get confused. Like if the waker immediately gets up in the morning and then he just remembers a little bit of the dream world, he gets confused as to what is this world and what is that world. Immediately he rejects that world, the dream world. Similarly, the same thing happens when you are understood your nature. This happens in the class, this happens to you while you are contemplating on the nature of Turiyam. Suddenly you realize that whatever you have been thinking about as the real world is not the real world. The real world is our Turiyam nature. With reference to Turiyam only, we are now going to discuss Advaita. Advaita means, from the Turiyam's point of view, there is only non-dual awareness. This is the title of the fourth chapter, of the third chapter, Advaita Prakaranam. It means non-dual nature of Turiyam. This is one of the words which are used in the seventh mantra of the Upanishad. And there are 38 verses which are trying to explain to us the meaning of this word Advaita. So, Prapancha Upashamam was dealt in the second chapter, which means the unreality of the world of waking, the unreality of the dream world, the unreality of the sleeping, ignorant world. If those three are all false, what is the reality? The reality is aham. The reality is Turiyam, pure consciousness, awareness. You don't have to go anywhere to understand your real nature. Only your mind has to travel in the direction of dropping the three states and claiming whatever remains in your own intellect as the Turiyam, as the core of the personality. That Turiyam is non-dual. Non-dual means the world of waking, dream, and sleep, they do not have an independent existence without me, the Turiyam I. I'll repeat again. The waking state cannot have an existence of its own. The dream state cannot have the existence of its own. The sleep state cannot have an existence of its own without the I, the pure awareness. For you, it's very easy to understand that the dream world cannot exist without the waker. The Upanishad is extending it further, and it says, if you accept that the dream world doesn't exist, please accept that the waking world and the sleep world does not exist without the pure awareness, the I, the real I. With reference to the real I can say that the world is an appearance, whereas I am the existence. Two words you should remember. The difference between the two must be very clear in your mind. What is appearance? What is existence? Existence is called as Satyam. Appearance is called as Mithya in Sanskrit. And our mind should be very clear. What is Satyam? What is Mithya? If you are able to hold on to the Satyam, Advaitam becomes very easy to understand. Because the definition of Mithya is, it is dependent on Satyam. The rope snake is dependent on the rope. The mirage water is dependent on the sand. The dream world is dependent on the waker. What we are now saying is that the waking world is dependent on awareness, consciousness, Turiyam. You must understand this fundamental point when you are discussing this entire chapter of Advaita Prakaranam. That's why I'm dwelling on this particular aspect of What we are trying to say is Advaita. If you have still not understood, please put a note in the chat box with your question, with your doubt, and then I will try to clarify it in the end of the discussion. Prapancha description. Now we are getting into the details of what is this Mithya Prapancha. We are trying to see what all we have put in the basket of Mithya. I explained this last week towards the end of the talk, and I said you can have 4 different ways to describe Mithya. You can say that the Mithya is the 3 pairs. In the waking state, the Vishwa and Virat. Vishwa is the individual, Virat is the total. In the dream state, Taijasa is the individual, Hiranyagarbha is the total. In the sleep state, Prajna is the individual entity and Ishvara is the total experience, which we call it as Mula Vidya. Then this is one method. The second method is the entire waking state is nothing else but an identification of the Turiyam with the gross body. When I identify with the gross body, I then see the gross world. That is the waking state. Mithya. Then subtle body and subtle objects, which is in the dream state. Causal body and the causal object in the sleep state. This is another way of saying what is Mithya. That means Atma is Satyam, Anatma is Mithya. Anatma can be defined in 4 different ways. As 6 factors of the 3 states, as 3 bodies and 3 objects with reference to the body, or the third way is 3 padas, which we have seen in the Mandukya. Prathama pada, Dvitiya pada, Tritiya pada. Prathama pada means the first waking state. Dvitiya pada is the dream state, and the Tritiya pada. Pada means a level of consciousness, a step. So Tritiya pada, 3 padas, and all the 3 padas are Mithya. Mithya means appearance does not have independent existence. You can say this only when you are very clear in your mind that I exist without the body, the gross body, subtle body, and the causal body. That existence without these 3 is called as Turiyam. And now we are learning how to take that Turiyam nature as non-dual. That is what is the objective of this chapter. Because this understanding of the non-duality of Turiyam is very, very critical if you want to maintain the thought of Turiyam throughout your life and reject the Anatma. That is why Gaudapada Acharya has taken 3 chapters after the Agama Prakaranam. He has taken 3 chapters to explain the details of Vaitatya Prakaranam, Advaita Prakaranam, Alata Shati Prakaranam. The 4th method is a subdivision of the 3rd pada, 3 padas only, where in the Mandukya Upanishad, in the 6th mantra, it is said that the sleep state is the Karana avastha. It is the causal state from where the dream and waking appear and disappear. This is another way to say that the three are nothing else but Karanam and Karyam are both Mithya. What about Turiyam? Turiyam is beyond Karanam and Karyam. See, the Upanishad is very, very clear in trying to make us drop the Anatma portion from the Atma. We have to have Viveka, discrimination which comes in a subtle intellect. As we learn the Upanishads, as we learn the Bhagavad Gita, what happens is when we try to go deeper and deeper into these realms of Atma, the mind gets a power to understand the nature of Atma. Especially I keep mentioning this, especially the Brahma Sutra Adhyasa Bhashyam. That Adhyasa Bhashyam clarifies everything. 100% once you understood the Adhyasa Bhashyam, Mandukya becomes a very, very easy topic to take up and realize the true nature. So for those who are interested, please study. I have already mentioned this. Some of the people who are listening to this have already started the Adhyasa Bhashyam talks and reading material. They have started learning it and they have started discussing with me personally how to understand that better and so on. I will be taking Adhyasa Bhashyam sometime later. I will need to prepare some notes, and then the very difficult Sanskrit literature, but it is worth it because it clarifies all the doubts. So now we go to the details of this third chapter, 38 verses. First three padas, just an introduction. The Karanam is the sleeping state. The Karyam is the waking and dream. The fourth pada is neither Karyam or Karanam, and Turiyam alone is Satyam. The three states are Mithya. Therefore, we say it is Advaita. See, philosophy, many of the philosophers in the past have studied the Bhagavad Gita, have studied the Upanishads. Many rishis, many scholars, and they have come to the conclusion, their own conclusion, because their own mind has analyzed and they have come to a conclusion. And during Shankaracharya's time, there were 4 or 5 main schools like Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Vaiseshika. These were the schools which were all talking that there is Dvaitam in the world, there is no Advaita. So Shankaracharya in the second chapter of the Brahma Sutra, he takes each one of them and he refutes all the mathams, all their philosophies. Then what his contention, Shankaracharya's contention was that the truth is non-dual, which means the whole experiences which we have, they all resolve into the same prapanchopasamam that leads to the conclusion that the truth is non-dual. And it is our own experience. You see, when we sleep, for example, in the Chandogya Upanishad, clearly it says, Prashna Upanishad, also Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, it clearly says in the sleep state, when you drop your ignorance about yourself, you are Turiyam. You are in the real state of your intrinsic nature. But you have to learn to drop that ignorance. In the waking state, you must drop that ignorance about yourself as the sleeper. Once you drop that sleeper nature is not real, then what remains is that truth alone. It's very easy then. I know the truth very well because that is the real, that is a reality. And whatever I experience, it is an appearance. Appearance means you have to take it as real while you're experiencing. For example, the dreamer in dream is in waking of the dream world. So similarly, in the waking world, we have to remain as the waker and conduct our vyavahara, conduct our transactions as if it is a real world. That is why the jnanis, after realization, also they live like normal people. But there is a difference between a jnani and ajnani. The jnani knows that this is an appearance and it will go away. When I sleep tonight, this whole thing will disappear. I will go back to my real nature. Because that is my real nature. The same thing, if we are also able to accept it, we can also be called as Jivan Mukta. Jivan Mukta means that the sense of isolation, an isolated entity, which is coming from that ego I. Because that ego I is a result of superimposition of the I thought on Atma. I learned to drop that superimposition by going through the Adhyasa Bhashya. Very deeply they analyze this I thought. And then they say this I thought is a superimposition in the Karana Shariram. First, Prathamathysa. Many a times I used to wonder, what is this I thought? What is this I thought which they keep on talking in the Upanishads as, and then they say in this I thought every other thought comes and becomes a superimposition. I could never understand that many times. Till I went and heard the Adhyasa Bhashyam, where towards the end of the Adhyasa Bhashyam, Shankaracharya clearly says, Prathama Adhyasa, the first Adhyasa, when you wake up in the morning from your real nature of awareness, for a split second, you can remain as awareness. Split second, it could be 1/1,000,000th of a second. You know that you are the pure awareness. That pure awareness, even if it is 1/1,000,000th of a second, if you are able to pick it up, then you have understood the whole Upanishad. You don't need anything else. That is your real nature. It is just that I know that that is my nature. From that pure nature, what happens is your I thought comes to the body, to the Karana Shariram of the body. This is what Shankaracharya explains in the Adhyasa Bhashya. He says that the first Adhyasa is in the Karana Shariram, which is the causal body, which is there. That causal body is called as ignorance. In that ignorant state, there is a first reflection of the Atma as the I thought. And that ignorance then superimposed on the Sukshma Sharira. And then from the Sukshma Shariram, it goes to the Sthula Sharira. So in the first one, in the first case, the Prathama Adhyasa is on the Karana Sharira. Karana Sharira means I don't know my real nature. That is what it is. There is a Karana Sharira means there is a block in us, a tamas in us. Karana Shariram, another word for that is tamas. So there is a tamas. In that, there is a reflection of Atma first. So Atma engulfs this, the awareness is engulfed by this ignorance. And then the ignorance is passed on to the Sushma Shariram. That means I then say, then I become aware of the mind. Then the mind has attributes. Then the mind becomes aware of the sense organs, and then you say, I am in Singapore, I am in India, I am in USA, wherever you are. This is how Adhyasa Bhashyam is explained, because this is how you realize the Turiyam. Sa Atma Savigneyaha. That is what it says. I am the Satyam Turiyam. What happens in the Mithya Karya Karana Prapancha will not affect me, the Satyam. So I am pure awareness. In that awareness only, this whole Karana Shariram of mine is first superimposed, is the first I thought in the Karana Shariram of the individual. And this isolated, that isolation of the entity comes only in the I thought. Without that I thought, who were you? Undifferentiated Atma. Undifferentiated, undivided Turiyam. So undifferentiated, undivided Turiyam is my real nature. And what happened was, I took the I thought to be real. And then I started engaging myself in the transactions throughout the waking state. So the I thought remains throughout till you get into the sleep state and you get dissolved in that Turiyam. This is how the world is. This is how Advaita philosophers like Shankaracharya has explained the nature of the world and the nature of the individual, and the core of the personality is nothing but pure awareness. It can be easily realized as the self, because awareness is the substratum in which everything is coming and going. A gross mind finds it difficult to understand the awareness. But when the mind gets purified, slowly you start seeing that light of consciousness is the reality. Aham Nitya Mukta Turiyam Asmi is the truth, the final truth. And third chapter is establishing Turiyam as Advaitam, non-dual. What is the meaning of Dvaitam? To understand Advaitam, you should understand Dvaitam also. Let me dwell a little bit on Dvaitam. It is not mentioned here. I will explain to you. See, when we see that I am the subject, an individual, and I am experiencing a world, this of sense objects, I am the subject, and the world I experience is the object. In the language of the Advaita principle, it's called as pramata. I am the pramata, the knower, and the world is known. That's all. They don't talk about Turiyam and nothing. They, for the Dvaitins, I am there and the world is there. Or Jivatma is there and Paramatma is there. Paramatma is what I experience in the world, and he is of a very, very high nature. I am a very low of a very low nature. So what happens is, this is called as Dvaitam. When you're close to this philosophy of Dvaitam, what happens is you are always separate than the total. I always remain as a limited entity, and the totality always will be overwhelming me all the time. So there is no moksha in this, according to Shankaracharya. Moksha is when the whole thing is resolved as one, non-dual Atma. Then there is moksha for the individual who is attached to this body. Like I said, that Karan Shariram, that I thought which comes, that I thought we have to separate it from the I, which is the Atma. You can never experience the Atma. Like I said, you can only drop the Anatma. That is the effort you can make. The human mind can only go up to the level of dropping the Anatma. After that, it is the Lord. It is the Lord which takes care, and then you merge into that consciousness. That is why that pure Atma can never be defined. It can never be described. You can never, your mind can never think about it. Because the mind is an effect of that ultimate reality. There are 5 topics in the 3rd chapter, Advaita Prakaranam. 48 verses are there. The 5 topics are, I'm just giving you a very broad summary so that you get a glimpse of what is Advaita Prakaranam. Those of you who are interested to study deeper, you have to go through the Mandukya Karika of Gaudapadacharya, which is there in Sanskrit. Commentaries are available from Swami Chinmayananda has written a commentary. Then there are other commentators. Sarvapriyananda has got also explained this very beautifully. Then there are many other acharyas who have talked on this karikas. You will find plenty of talks in the YouTube. Plenty, so many of them. If you are keen, you can go into it. Otherwise, you follow the study, what we are doing here, and you will reach the same truth. So the first two verses are Upodgataha, which is an introduction. Then there is a very important section which is called as Srishti Nishedaha. Srishti Nishedaha means Ajativada. That means creation is never born. It is only an appearance. That is what is analyzed here in 28 verses, 23rd to 30. Atma Jnanam, Atma is asparshaha. I will explain to you when we are discussing the section. It's untouched. Atma is untouched by anything in creation. Asangaha. If you remember the Asangaha of Prathamathysa Upanishad, the Janaka Yajnavalkya Samvada of Prathamathysa Upanishad is the same as Asparsha Yoga of the Mandukya. Nididhyasanam means assimilation of the teaching. Okay, now that you have learned that this is the nature, my nature, how do I learn to drop my other nature, which I thought was my nature? I need to drop that. That means I need to regulate my thoughts in a new direction. It's a new orientation of my thinking pattern. Ultimately, what happens when you learn the Upanishads is your entire pattern of thinking about the world and about yourself changes. And you get into a new groove of thinking. Your mind learns, because of the study of the Upanishads, the mind learns to understand the new thought pattern about awareness. And awareness gets the basic substratum on which you build the entire experiences, both at the individual level, at the total level. So that is what we do whenever we talk about Nididhyasanam. What we are trying to do in Nididhyasanam is trying to tell yourself in the seat of meditation, by closing the eyes, deliberately saying, I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am the Turiya Atma. So far, I have lived a life of my mind. All the experiences of the mind, I have taken it on me, which is what I have to drop. This is the adhyasa I need to drop. Once you drop the adhyasa of the anatma mind on the atma, then you are a free person, and that is what is called as jivan mukta while living. I am free while living. Thoughts will still come, but you're not so bothered, you're not so engrossed in it as the reality. Upasamhara is the conclusion portion of this chapter. A little bit description I want to give you of the different sections which I have just now spoken. The first topic, all duality is a cause of samsara, secular and sacred. For example, secular means laukika, duality. You see, now I'm sure you know that duality means a wrong understanding about the world, and Advaita means the right understanding. So the wrong understanding creates samsara, creates sorrow. In all my activities, whether I do Vedic rituals like Oma Kunda, I put oblations and I do that Vedic rituals to have a better world after I leave this body. I go to heaven and there I enjoy better quality of life, better body, better mind, better surroundings. These are all adhyasas. These are all wrong interpretations of the world. That is what is the cause of sorrow in life, like it was explained by Lord Krishna to Arjuna in the second chapter of the Gita. He said, why are you suffering this sorrow, Arjuna? Because you don't know your true nature. And then from verse 12 to 30, the Lord Krishna explains to Arjuna his real nature. That real nature explained in the Bhagavad Gita from chapter 2 to in chapter 2, verse 12 to 30 is the same as what is described in the 7th mantra of Mandukya. So that is non-dual, and whatever appearances are in the waking dream or sleep are dual. In all duality, you will find time. Time is there, body is there, experiences are there. What is the truth? The truth is what was said in the second mantra. I am Atma Brahma. I am Atma Brahma means the timeless nature. In the first mantra itself of the Mandukya Upanishad, the Upanishad starts talking about a timeless principle. That timeless principle is non-dual, which is what is Turiyam. All upasanas involve deity, devotee, and duality. Suppose you go to see, that is why any upasana is not the truth. Karma is not the truth. Only jnanam is the truth. Only by getting the jnana of Atma, I can realize the final nature of the universe and about my own nature. So in Dvaitam duality, time, space, objects, and Yamadharmaraja are there. That means there is always perishability in the world. Time alone is responsible for the birth, growth, decay, disease, and death of the body. In Vedanta, even time and space and objects, the division which is caused is due to adhyasa. The superimposition of the mind on the karana shariram, I thought, gives the rise to time and space, division in time, division in space. This is how in the higher texts of Vedanta it is explained. And whenever you have Dvaitam, there will be fear and samsara. The fear of death will always be there because you will look at yourself as the body or mind, and the body and mind is living in the world. But in Advaitam, what we say is, I am Atma. In that consciousness, I am experiencing the rise of the body and the fall of the body. So they are not so important like the rise in the dream. The rise in the dream, who cares? As soon as you woken up, you don't care what you dreamt about, because that was a false appearance. So similarly, from the Advaitam's point of view, moksha is my real nature. It is nitya moksha. It is not coming and going moksha. Body appearances are coming and going. Time is coming and going. But my nature of pure awareness is the same all the time. That is why it's called as timeless. Karyam and Karanam may come under Dvaitam. That is why in the 6th mantra it says that the sleep state is the Karanam, is the Karana avastha for the waking and the dream. And Turiyam is beyond that state. See, why we say beyond means it helps my mind to even drop everything in this world of appearances. It's a very unique method by which a new pattern of thoughts can emerge in our intellects. The Karanam is appearing like Advaita. That means I appear to be in this world. I thought appears to be divided as the idam thought. The idam consists of the entire world, which is so many objects, so many human beings, and so many bodies, and so many intellects. But ultimately, the truth is, all of them, they resolve into one consciousness. Suṣupti is called as Nirvikalpa avastha, very similar to Samadhi. Only thing in Samadhi is you're still aware without any thoughts. Whereas in Suṣupti, you are in total ignorance because you are overwhelmed by Prakriti's tamoguna. The Suṣupti appears like Advaitam, but there also there is Dvaitam, but in potential form. When we say Advaitam, what it means, the real Advaitam, it is beyond both Karyam and Karan. There is something in this universe which is the final, ultimate truth of me who is in this body. That reflection which we talk about all the time in Vedanta is a reflection of the Atma on Anatma Karana Shariram first, which is the I thought. That I thought, I keep it constant throughout my waking state. Again, the next day, another waking state comes. Again, the I thought comes into this particular body and then goes through these experiences. This is what is called as samsara. The second topic is from verse 3 to 30. This is the toughest topic of Vedanta, which is called as Srishti Nisheda, which means elimination of a created world. Only when you understand that there is Turiyam or Brahman, which is Advaitam in nature, you can eliminate the creation as mithya. Atma Brahman Turiyam is not a Karanam. It is not a Karanam because the moment you say it is Karanam, Dvaitam will come. Karanam is different than Karya. And what we say is there is no product which has come out of Turiyam also. See, these are all finer aspects which the mind has to dwell. Only when you dwell on this type of reasoning, you can abide as the Turiyam. Otherwise, what happens is you just listen to a talk like this, and then you can forget you will tend to forget everything. That abidance in our real nature will not happen. The reasoning aspect of Gaudapada Acharya's Karika help us to abide in Atma. The 12 mantras, it's easy once you have understood it, but the mind has to remain in that. See, I have to remain in that as my real nature. That is the struggle for all the seekers. So here what they're saying is nothing is born out of Turiyam, and that philosophy is called as Ajati Vada. Ajaha, unborn. That is why it is called as Ajati Vada, unborn creation. Unborn means what? It is an appearance. It appears. Why does it appear? For the benefit of the jivas to realize their true nature. Whenever you talk about creation, the Upanishad will use the theory of law of karma to explain what is the creation. And the moment you want to drop this creation, it will use the negation, neti neti. So Srishti, the logical negation is Jiva Srishti, Jagat Srishti. Jiva Srishti means pot, like the pot space and the total space. What you say is that there is only one space. That is how you negate the pot space. Scriptural negation is where you take certain mantras of the Upanishads like the Neti Neti and say that there is no Jiva Srishti or Jagat Srishti. Jiva Srishti means I am throwing up certain thoughts in my mind. Srishti, it is not a creation, but it is an appearance. There is a difference between appearance, which is mithya, and creation. Creation means karanam and karyam exists. Both exist in reality. But when they are not existing in reality, it is only an appearance, like the rope snake. It came, it was there for some time till the jnanam comes. That is why it is called as mithya. Mithya means when the jnanam comes, this doesn't remain. With this, I will stop here. The logical negation of Jiva Srishti, how it happens, I will take it up next week. We'll continue with this slide. There are many more pages to go for this third chapter. It's a very elaborate chapter. We'll go through this. Let's let our mind dwell on these understanding, this type of reasoning, and slowly we'll pick up and we'll be able to know in our own hearts our real nature. Okay, so now we will stop the Mandukya talk. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudacchade Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om. Shanti. 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 So I have some question here on the chat box. I'll go through that first. I hope the disturbance, yeah, there was some disturbance of some sound of the planes going around near my house. So I hope the disturbance was resolved finally. Okay, then we have a few other questions. Akshay is asking, he's quoting the 15th chapter, the 7th verse, Mamai Vamsho Jiva Loke Jiva Buddha Sanatanaha Manashashtanendriyani Prakrististani Karshati. Okay, the question is, okay, Akshay, are you around? Can you unmute yourself, Akshay, and ask me the question you have?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
So actually, Vishishtadvaita says we are part, Jivatma is a part and parcel of Paramatma.
Correct.
In sense of quality, means it has
Yes.
same quality as Paramatma.
That's correct.
But
Paramatma has got a higher, superior attribute, and I am Jivatma, who has a lower nature, who has got an inferior attribute. So the attributes, they all belong to the body and mind. They do not belong to Atma. Atma is the light in which the attributes are seen. What Advaitin says is, don't focus your attention on the attributes. Drop that adhyasa of attributes and realize that the supreme nature, the substratum, which is the consciousness. Initially, we all have to go through these attributes as a preliminary stage. But we must learn when to take this and when to drop it. Mamai Vamsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatanaha. This is at a beginning stage of a seeker, where the Lord Krishna is saying that I am now, what happens is in this world, I take away the Jiva is nothing else but a part of me. Jiva Bhuta Sanatanaha Mamai Amsha. The Jiva is only a small portion of me, the Lord says. It's a part of the totality. That is what, but it is not the ultimate truth. This is how the Lord begins the talk. In the 15th chapter, he says this, but in the 18th verse, you look at the 15, 16, 17, 18 verses, where he talks about Uttama Purusha, Shara Purusha, Akshara Purusha, Uttama Purusha. That is where is the ultimate discussed. In the 7th mantra, he says, you're a part. Come on, let me teach you from where you are. You are now at the level of the body and mind. Therefore, I will teach you from your body level, your mind level. First, O Jiva, you try to understand you are a part, I am the whole. The Visishta Advaitins, they have taken this particular mantra and have taken this as the ultimate truth. They have not gone into the Uttama Purusha, which is mentioned in the 15th chapter at a later verse. So this is where you see, it depends on the focus. See, throughout the Upanishads, the teaching is that there is there is no part in Atma. Like space has no parts, similarly in Atma there is no parts. But here the Lord himself says that you are a part of me. This is at the beginning stage, but don't take this as the ultimate teaching. So in the 16th verse, he says, Dhamima Purusha Loke Ksharakshara Ksharashevacha Uttama Purushas Panya, that is the 17th verse. So he says, I transcend both the perishable and the imperishable, and I am the Uttama Purusha. So that is what is said in the 17th mantra. So that is where you should also ultimately rise. Then you talked about the drop and the ocean and the water and this thing. These are all at a lower level, no doubt. But how can we counter answer this Advaita point of view? What Advaita Shankaracharya says in his commentary on these verses is, he says that these are all at the beginner's level. There are two levels of teaching. Initially, we say yes, because the jiva is identified with the body. The jiva is identified with the mind. So the Lord says, okay, oh jiva, you are just a part of me. So that the jiva learns to surrender to the higher principle. This is a methodology of teaching. You surrender, that means you surrender your intellect to that particular higher nature, which you say there is some Paramatma in the world. That Paramatma is the ultimate in creation. This is how, you see, the level of Bhagavad Gita is at a fairly junior level of our seeking. It talks about the highest principle, but it doesn't focus there. You know, there are so many aspects discussed in the Bhagavad Gita because they're all preparations, initially the preparatory ground for our mind to grow into the Advaita. Only when you come to the Advaitam and understand the principle of Advaitam, because the moment your mind is able to drop the three states as anatma, then there is only one truth, which is Atma, which is Advaita substratum Atma, Turiyam Atma. So at this point of time, Akshay, so if you are able to understand, it's okay, but do you have any questions in this at the moment?
Yeah, fine with this. One more
Okay.
question is,
Yeah.
The people who follow the bhakti,
Yes.
they say we can reach the ultimate through bhakti only, not with other yoga like.
Yeah, you see, this is how they all talk about it, but then you see, what happens in bhakti is you dissolve your emotions into the Lord. That is the same thing as saying, I will dissolve the waking and the dream state into the sleep state. You see, what happens through Vedanta Jnanam, when you take the Jnanam portion, the abidance in Atma becomes much more clear and much more stronger. That is what Advaita philosophers like Shankaracharya are saying. No doubt that bhakti will give you the purity of mind. See, bhakti will purify your mind so much that your mind will accept whatever the Shruti says. But don't stop with bhakti. See, bhakti will help you to go deeper into the Shastra. All the people, all the bhaktas, they have gone much more deeper. We hear the stories from the Puranas and all that, but the truth is what? The truth is that they find a guru. The bhakti will help you to even locate a guru, because you see, the guru will finally knows that he has purified his mind, and then he will teach the right thing and says, now drop your identification with that mind or with that with that Ishvara's image which you have in your mind, because that is Dvaitam. Dvaitam, according to Shankaracharya, I'm only teaching whatever Shankaracharya is saying, because there are, like I said, there are different schools. There is a Visishta Advaitin school and there is a Dvaitin school. So what we are learning here in our talks here is the Advaita philosophy. No doubt there is Dvaitam, but Dvaitam is at the appearance level. It is not the ultimate truth. Ultimate truth is the light of consciousness. In the Brahma Sutra, you will find, like I said, this Dvaitam, Advaitam, Visishta Advaitam, all these are threadbare analyzed. But the fundamental to all the analysis is this Adhyasa Bhashya. Adhyasa means superimposition. It is really happening to me every day when I wake up. In the morning, I put on my clothes. Like I put on my clothes, I put on the cloth of I thought. This is how deep we have to go when you come, when you're trying to reach the consciousness level. You have to drop the body itself, drop the mind itself, and just look at only I thought. Where is this I? See, each one of us who are listening to this talk, if you close your eyes and say, Aham, I, what does this Aham, I mean? That is what your inquiry should be. With the help of this Aham, I only, I become a doer in this body. I start acting. I learn about the world. I become a father, mother, sister. All is with reference to this I thought, which becomes identified with the body, and then the body becomes the Atma. The mind becomes Atma. And then we conduct the whole transactions during the day as this Atma, body and mind. It is a full superimposition. It is so, and then when do we drop this? Only in our sleep state. We drop this I thought only in the sleep state. In the sleep state, is there any I? There is no I. Are you existing or not? Yes, yes, I'm existing. How many hours did you sleep? 8 hours I slept. So 8 hours you were in timeless nature. What the Mandukya Upanishad says is, please hold on to that, in which you were not the body, not the mind, not the world, nothing was experienced, but hold on to your nature. Then you will have dropped all the sorrows because you're holding on to that as the core personality. Okay. Ram Kumar, difference in Advaita and Advaita about suṣupti and Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Ram Kumar, are you? Can you please ask me, unmute and ask what your question is? You can unmute yourself, Ram Kumar. Ram Kumar, can you can you ask me?
Dvaitam.
Yes.
Earlier page, it was written that Advaitam and Dvaitam. What is the difference between? What is the difference about suṣupti and Nirvikalpa Samadhi in Advaitam and Dvaitam? That's what I wanted.
Oh, okay. See, what Dvaitam says is that our suṣupti avastha is also real. Waking is also real. So according to them, everything is real, real, real. In Dvaita philosophy, body is real, the world is real. Therefore, they exist all the time. Whereas in Advaitam, what they say is, in the sleep state, there is no more Dvaitam at all. only with reference to you, the Atma. You see, you don't again jump from the sleep state, your sleep state, and say that for other people it is there. That is a wrong way of understanding. You should say, I am analyzing myself. When I analyze myself, in Advaita philosophy, sleep state is a state in which I don't know anything, neither the world, neither the body. Nothing for me exists. I am in total ignorance. So Advaitam says that from this ignorant state only the Dvaitam world is coming, and it is again going back in sleep. Again, the dream world is, Dvaita world of dream is coming. Again, it goes back into this ignorant state of sleep. So what Advaitam says is, don't look at this ignorant state as the ultimate truth of yourself also. Go beyond that and find out who is seeing that sleep state, who is the witness of that sleep state. That is called as Sakshi Turiyam. Yes.
What about Advaita?
In Dvaitam, they don't have this they don't have this non-dual nature of Atma. They say they don't accept the non-duality at all. That is the basic fundamental difference between Dvaitam and Advaitam. They don't accept Advaitam at all. They say there is nothing called as Advaitam in the world. This Turiyam and all that in Mandukya, whatever they have said, it is all, just it's just a description. If you look at the Bhash, their own understanding, they will see, for example, in the Bhagavad Gita, it says, Na jayate mriyate va kadachit, 20th verse of the 2nd chapter. So what it says is that you're not born, and you are the Atma which is not born. So their view is they don't take those verses. They will take this verse which Akshay just pointed out. Paramatma is there. I'm a part. So for them, Paramatma is real. I am real. I am always under Paramatma. I have to surrender to Paramatma. What Shankaracharya is at the beginning level, yes, it is true. We take, when you are in the waking world, Shankaracharya, yes, there is Dvaitam. I don't deny Advaitam. But Shankaracharya says, don't accept this Dvaitam as the ultimate. There is a higher truth. And understand the higher truth. That is what is explained in the Upanishads. That is what will give you moksha. See, by knowing Dvaitam, before study of Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads also, you knew that I am different from the world. So what did you learn from the Bhagavad Gita or in the Upanishads? Nothing. After study of 10 years, 15 years of the Bhagavad Gita, if you also say there is always Dvaitam, Dvaitam is real, then you need not have studied at all. Your eyes are reporting Dvaitam. So no point in studies.
That is before.
Yes, before also Dvaitam, at the end also you say is Dvaitam. Then how will you get moksha? What is the goal for which you are studying the Upanishads? That is why the Shankaracharya's Advaitam has become very, very popular. In almost all the schools of Vedanta today, they teach Advaita Vedanta. That is what is most popular. There are some schools, they still talk about Dvaitam, and there are some people who follow that. I'm not saying that everybody follows that, but there are some schools. And what we are coming from that parampara, from that that tradition of teaching. We are now in the same tradition of Shankaracharya's teaching. Okay, I think that's all for the questions. Does anybody else has any other question? If there are no other questions, we'll stop here and then we'll continue next week. Okay, thank you very much. Good night. Good night.
Hari
Hari Om.
Thank you, Shekharji. Good night.
Okay,
Thank
good night,
you.
Guruma.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Thank you, Shekharji.
Thank you, Rohit.
Thank you.